This is the Coffee Playdate podcast, and I am Dr. Olga, hospitalist, mom of 3 under 6, and a life coach for women physicians and professionals. On this podcast, I spotlight entrepreneurs and doctorpreneurs who are doing incredible things beyond traditional medicine. You'll hear the real-life stories behind their mindset shifts, the challenges they've overcome, and the practical advice that they share to support aspiring entrepreneurs on their own paths. I have a very special guest with me today, Dr. Larry Daugherty. Hi, Larry.
Hey, Olga. It's great to be here. I'm excited for my first play date.
It's great to have you. I'd love to ask you, do you drink coffee?
I do. I started drinking coffee about 10 years ago. I guess like 12 years ago when I was a resident. And back then it was Dunkin' Donuts, like extra large, super sugary, full of cream coffee. And nowadays it's just plain black coffee with a little bit of cream and no sugar.
You've come a long way since residency. So I'd like to first start off with a rapid fire questions game. I'm going to give you 2 options. You choose the one that you like more. Here we go. Single family or multifamily?
Definitely multifamily.
Midterm rentals or short-term rentals?
Midterm rentals.
How about tumor boards or clinic day?
Ooh, that's actually a hard one. I really enjoy tumor boards. Depends on the clinic day, though. I'll go with tumor board.
Perfect. And how about dog-mushing or leading a mountain climbing expedition?
Oh, that's a really hard one. I would probably go, okay, I'm going to go with leading a mountain expedition.
Amazing. All right, next game is called Take a Sip. So again, I'm going to give you 2 options, but this time we both answer. And if our answers match, then we have to take a sip from our coffee mugs.
I'm ready.
How about this one? Alaska wilderness or Florida beaches?
Alaska wilderness.
Oh, Florida beaches.
No sip.
No sip. How about a new build or a value add rehab?
Man, such pros and cons, but value add rehab.
Me too, value add rehab. Locums or W-2 job?
Locums.
Locums, me too. Cheers.
Are you locums?
I am. Yep. And last one, public speaking or behind the scenes planning?
This might surprise you, but I'm going to say behind the scenes planning.
That is a surprise. How come?
I think that's what I spend a lot of my time doing is behind the scenes planning. And surprisingly, I get really nervous. And like, as I have a public speaking gig come up, I usually end up pulling it off pretty well. But I think emotionally, it takes a little bit of a toll on me, honestly.
Yeah, I can totally relate. Public speaking is something that I am working on. So I'm going to have to go with public speaking.
Okay.
No sip. Maybe you'll have your coffee tomorrow. So, Larry, can you tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I live in Alaska, work in Alaska. I'm a radiation oncologist. I cut down to part-time 3 to 4 years ago. So the group that I used to work for full-time, they have clinics all over Alaska. And previously when doctors wanted to take vacation, that meant hiring a locum from the lower 48. And so I managed to carve out a role in the practice where I added up the vacation weeks. And I was like, hey, we'd actually save a lot of money if we brought this kind of within the group. And I would love to kind of take this job. And so I proposed it to the group, and it's been a massive win-win. So work part-time in medicine, have a lot of extracurricular hobbies. I actually run a group for men who are interested in entrepreneurship and real estate, but also have a passion for adventure. So it's called Base Camp. And so I do that. I'm a real estate investor. I own a couple hundred doors up here in Alaska. Father of 5. I think that's my most important role in life is a dad to 5 amazing kids.
Wow. What an interesting non-traditional lifestyle you have. Did you always think that this was going to be the way that, like, this is where you'll end up when you were younger?
I think when I was younger, yes. But as I went through my medical training, and then when I was going through residency, I desperately wanted to go into academics. And I also really felt in my heart that academic medicine was the most honest way to practice medicine and have it be like service. That's really what drew, I think, most of us into medicine, right? And so I took my first job at the Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville, Florida, and initially loved it. But within the first year, it started to feel like a grind. So we had these resident teaching meetings, which I initially really loved. They were at 8:00, and I would drop my kids off at school at 7:45 and then like race to be on time for this resident meeting. And at the Mayo Clinic, you have to wear a suit and tie. every day as a man. And so like I dropped my kids off at school. I threw on my suit jacket. I didn't have my tie on, and I like was racing in. I was like a minute late, and I threw my tie on my desk in my office. And I came in and I sat down at this, teaching thing, and it just started. I was like, oh. And then right after the meeting, my chair was like, Dr. Daugherty, I need to talk to you. And I was like, oh my gosh. And he takes me into his office and he was like, at the Mayo Clinic, we wear a tie the moment we enter the doors of the Mayo Clinic.
Oh no.
And honestly, like that totally shifted my mindset. Like that was the moment where the tie felt like this noose around my neck. And I started daydreaming about like what I felt as a kid, adventure, and like, hold on, wait, like I'd lost this part of myself. And a couple of months later, I entered this contest. I was actually traveling to speak at Mayo. Was sent to Europe to go to this pretty cool conference. And on the plane, I was reading Outside Magazine. You ever read Outside Magazine?
No.
Yeah, it's this magazine just like full of adventure and stuff. And I'm like devouring it. And there was this tiny little advertisement for this contest that if you won, you got to go to Scandinavia, all expenses paid, and mush dogs, like race dogs in the Arctic Circle. Anyway, long story short, I applied for this contest. I made a video and people voted for me and I won and I got to go. And it was
Wow.
like, so if anybody listening, like it's open in November every year and anybody can enter and it's free. Anyway, the combination of that kind of tie incident and entering this contest just reignited this spark that was like deep inside of me. And within a short period of time after that, we found ourselves in Alaska and life has never been the same.
Wow, that's incredible. That There's so much to unpack there. I want to get to know you a little bit more in terms of how did you go from Alaska and what you were going through to building like this real estate empire, which I think is an empire.
Yeah, I went to PIMD Con, Peter Kim's conference in
Yeah.
October of 2019. And I was blown away when I met physicians that were like paying nothing in taxes because they were sheltering their income by buying real estate. And they'd made work optional in like a short period of time. And so that's really honestly what initially lit things on fire. And I tend to go all in with things. And so that's what I did with real estate. And it just kind of got out of control really quickly and acquired a whole bunch of properties. And here I am.
And you've also built other businesses as well. Is that right?
Yeah, so I have an adventure business that I've run for about 15 years. It's called Rad Global Adventures. So I organize climbs all over the world. So things like Everest Base Camp or climbing Kilimanjaro or going to Machu Picchu. I run a coaching program where I teach other physicians how to invest in real estate. And aside from my real estate business, those are really kind of my main other
So it's like you're always playing. And are you actually ever working?
That's the same thing my dad always asks me. Yeah, so I work in medicine about 20 weeks a year at this point. So what that looks like is in my group when a doc wants to take vacation, they take 1 week of vacation and I basically cover the clinic. So yeah, about 20 weeks a year I'm working in medicine.
So, Larry, you might not know this about me, but I actually do exactly the same thing that you do in medicine. So, I work as a locum hospitalist and I cover those doctors that need to take that 1 week of vacation off here and there throughout the whole year. It's actually very rewarding too because they feel like they can rely on me, like their patients are in good hands, and I'm also able to upkeep my skills as a hospitalist.
That's awesome. Yeah, I take a lot of pride in that as well, in being able to allow my colleagues to just unplug from the clinic and feel like things are in good hands. Larry's got it. And also you probably feel this as well, like when you're not working a ton, you also show up better for those patients. Like I just feel totally refreshed and energized and I show up and it's totally changed my own relationship with medicine. Like it helped me fall back in love with medicine in a time when I was really burned out. So I don't know, has that been what you've kind of felt too?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And like your patients really feel that energy too. And they're like kind of impressed, like, oh, who's this doctor who's stepping in? She's actually pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. That's super cool.
Feels good. Yeah. Have there been any other kind of mindset shifts that you had to go through in order to kind of feel more comfortable in this new life that you've built for yourself?
There was a lot of, we went through a lot of transitions during COVID. But even despite all that, so despite kind of like working two full-time jobs with a growing real estate empire at the time, my other side businesses, and feeling kind of angst and burnout in medicine, like the decision to go part-time should have been obvious. And yet, like, I tortured myself with the decision for over a year. I just felt, I think, a lot of guilt and shame around stepping away in any way from medicine. Like, I even felt that way when I went from a 5-day work week to a 4-day work week. And then when I did that 4-day work week when I was full time, I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. But going part time was even more so. I ended up feeling like I should have done it a lot sooner because I wasn't showing up as the best version of myself in the areas of my life that are the most important, as a dad, as a husband, because I was so distracted and spread thin. And if I'm being honest, I wasn't showing up as the best version of a doctor either.
It sounds like you finally found that alignment, like you are living with what's true to your core values.
Yeah, I think that's my pursuit. I can't say that I have it all figured out or that it's perfect. I think the word balance is a verb. You're never perfectly in balance. You're always balancing. And so sometimes my real estate stuff gets out of balance, or maybe I'm spending too much attention now on my coaching business or so, but I'm always asking myself how I can balance more, balance better. But yeah, it's definitely better than it was for sure.
And how has your definition of success evolved over time?
That's a good question. I think, I didn't grow up with much. I grew up in a pretty poor family. I have 7 sisters. Both of my parents worked multiple jobs growing up. Uh, and I think when I was little, success was totally about money. It was just
Yeah.
like, money was the answer to everything. And then once you kind of figure out the money game, which isn't that hard, with our level of training to figure out money, money by itself feels empty. It's not at all what I would describe as success. For me, success really is about freedom. And freedom is also kind of a complicated, like, what is freedom? And for me, it's just the ability to live a deliberate life, to actually be very intentional. And it's simple things. It's not necessarily being able to fly private anywhere in the world. It is being able to say yes to those little things in your life that really matter. Like, my son has a band concert next week. I can be there. And yes, also being able to live like an unbounded, limitless existence where you can really do whatever you want. That too. So yeah, success to me is about freedom.
How can someone achieve that type of freedom? What advice would you give someone if they're starting out in a similar space as you?
So I think there's lots of pathways to get there. For me, the pathway was through real estate, financially, freeing myself up so that I could then be able to make those deliberate choices, like cutting back in medicine, being present for those things that I care about, be able to chase adventures in my life that I dreamed about when I was a little kid. For others, I think you can absolutely attain freedom even just within medicine. You can earn a high wage, but you also have to be able to say no to things. And I think that's where a lot of doctors struggle, is saying no to the committee or saying no to the promotion, or saying yes to, no, I want to work 4 days a week. I actually want to work 3 days a week. I think there's a lot of ways to get there.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's hard to step away from what your norm is, what you're really used to, and make those big life-changing decisions. Like you mentioned, those transitions are so hard mentally to overcome. I had to
Totally.
transition from being like a full-time hospitalist, working probably 70 hours plus a week, to being a stay-at-home mom. And that was a huge transition, but it took about a year to really come to terms with it and to really kind of step into my new role. So I know what you went through kind of on a different level.
For you, was it like an identity crisis? Was that part of it? Because so much of your
Yes.
identity is just wrapped up in, yeah.
Exactly. I was always a full-time hospitalist. This is what I do. I'm a teaching attending. I'm an assistant professor. I had all these different roles to play, and I was part of like 3 different committees. And then all of a sudden, I had to come to Florida because my husband got a job here and I couldn't work for a while. So that's why I had to really kind of back off from everything I was doing and reset my mind. And that's so hard to do. I had to read through a lot of different personal development and growth books to really try and step into that new identity. That was a big challenge.
Well, congratulations for doing it. very few people lack the courage to do that.
Thank you. Now, is there a book recommendation that you might have for our listeners today?
Oh, man, I have a huge list. I think a book that I think about every single day that I read years ago is The Gap and the Gain. Have you read that one?
Yes, I love that book.
Yeah, my wife and I, we have very different reading tastes, and so a lot of the books that she reads, I don't like, and vice versa. But that's one that we both read together and resonated like tremendously with each of us. And so it's special for me in that way. Honestly, any of those books by Benjamin Hardy and Sullivan, 10X is easier than 2X. Everything they've written is amazing.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree. Well, thank you so much, Larry, for being on my podcast today. It's been a pleasure. I hope to have you on a future episode.
Awesome. It was a lot of fun. Thank you, Olga.
Thanks for tuning in to the Coffee Playdate podcast. This episode is designed to help you stay driven, aligned, build momentum, and take action on your entrepreneurial journey. That's my Dhamma method in motion. If you enjoyed this conversation, hit subscribe and share it with one other person you think would benefit from it. Remember, you can design your life one intentional step at a time.